Cái này chắc được rồi anh.
Được, để anh xem thêm đồ này nữa.
Vâng, mua mấy cái này về nhà mới xào nấu ngon lắm.
Em thấy bát này được không?
Dạ được anh, mình lấy thêm đĩa nhé.
Để anh lấy cho.
Cảm ơn anh, đẹp quá.
Vâng, chọn thêm món khác nữa.
Anh ơi, lấy ngói này đi.
Ném lên đây.
Này anh cầm chắc tay.
Rồi, được rồi.
Welcome, dear viewers, to today's heartwarming story. Huyen and Day's journey did not begin with wealth or luxury, but with simple days spent nurturing a shared dream of building a modest yet solid stone house. From the very first stones carefully laid in place to the emotional moment they held hands and stepped through the wooden door of their new home, every detail was the result of effort, sacrifice, and unwavering faith in their love. Together, they chose each piece of furniture, from a small dining table to soft, gentle curtains. And on their very first evening, under warm lights and over a simple home-cooked meal, they began their married life with a promise to always stand by and support one another. If you enjoy heartwarming family stories and journeys of building a home through love and sincerity, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming episodes. Your support is our greatest motivation to continue bringing you touching and meaningful stories every day. The morning Huyen and Dave finally stood in front of their newly built stone house felt like the gentle closing of one chapter and the trembling beginning of another. The house rose quietly at the edge of the small village road, its gray stone walls solid and unyielding, each block carefully chosen and placed by steady hands. It was not a grand villa, nor was it decorated with luxurious details, but to them, it was more beautiful than any mansion they had ever seen. Every stone carried the memory of long days under the sun, of shared effort, of silent determination. This was not just a structure, it was the physical shape of their love, strong, patient, and meant to last. Soft morning light spilled across the uneven texture of the stone, making the walls glow with a warm silver hue. Huyen tightened her fingers around Day's hand as they paused at the wooden doorway. The scent of fresh timber still lingered in the air, mixing with the earthy smell of stone and dust. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. They simply stood there, hearts full, listening to the quiet. It was the kind of silence that feels sacred, as if the house itself were waiting to welcome them in. They had dreamed about this house for years. There had been nights when they sat together under a dim light, sketching rough ideas on scraps of paper, where the kitchen might be, how wide the windows should open, how the living room would catch the afternoon sun. There were also days when the dream felt impossibly far away. Money was tight, work was exhausting, unexpected expenses forced them to delay their plans more than once. Yet every setback only strengthened their resolve. Instead of giving up, they saved a little more carefully, worked a little harder, and encouraged each other to keep believing. As they stepped inside, their footsteps echoed softly against the stone floor. The house was still empty, the rooms spacious and untouched, but to Huyen's eyes, it was already filled with life. She could imagine a wooden dining table near the window, sunlight pouring over warm bowls of rice and shared laughter. She pictured curtains swaying gently in the breeze and family photos lining the walls. Day, standing beside her, was already thinking about practical things, where to place the shelves, how to make the space comfortable during the rainy season, how to protect the walls so they would stay strong for decades. He turned to look at her, and in that glance was both pride and tenderness. "We did it," he whispered, almost as if afraid to break the fragile beauty of the moment. Huyen's eyes shimmered, not with tears of exhaustion, but with gratitude. They had not inherited wealth. No one had handed them this house. It was built from savings gathered coin by coin, from overtime hours, from sacrifices quietly made. It was built from arguments that ended in understanding, from fears that turned into courage when they held each other close. Outside, the wind brushed lightly against the stone walls, but inside, warmth was already beginning to grow. The house stood firm, just like the promises they had made to each other. In that simple, unfinished space, Huyen and Day felt something deeper than excitement. They felt certainty. This stone house was more than the start of married life. It was proof that love, when nurtured with patience and perseverance, can become something solid enough to stand against time. In the days that followed, the empty stone house slowly transformed into a living space filled with anticipation, laughter, and the quiet rhythm of two hearts learning how to build a life together. Huyen and Day decided that furnishing their new home would not be rushed. They wanted to choose each item carefully, not based on trends or appearances, but on meaning, comfort, and the simple joy of shared decisions. Every purchase, no matter how small, would become part of the story they were writing together. Their first stop was a modest furniture workshop on the outskirts of town. The scent of freshly cut wood wrapped around them as they walked between sturdy tables and hand-carved bed frames. Huyen ran her fingers along the smooth surface of a simple wooden dining table, imagining future meals, quiet breakfasts, and perhaps one day the sound of children's laughter echoing across it. Day tested the strength of its legs with practical focus, gently pressing down to ensure it was steady and durable. They exchanged a glance. No words were needed. This table would be where they would share not only food, but conversations, dreams, and even disagreements softened by understanding. Next came the bed, the symbol of rest and partnership. They chose one made of solid wood, strong yet elegant in its simplicity. "It should last a lifetime," Day said softly, half joking, half serious. Huyen smiled, knowing he meant more than just the furniture. As they discussed mattresses and blankets, their conversation drifted to thoughts of peaceful nights after long workdays, of comforting each other during difficult times, of whispering hopes into the darkness. Even something as ordinary as a bed carried emotional weight, representing the intimacy and trust at the heart of their marriage. They moved on to smaller details, curtains in a soft cream color that would filter the sunlight gently into the living room, kitchen shelves wide enough to hold carefully arranged bowls and plates, a simple sofa placed near the window so they could sit together in the evenings. Huyen took particular care in choosing their first set of dishes. She selected white ceramic bowls with delicate patterns along the rim, imagining the pride she would feel serving their first homemade meal in the new house. Day, meanwhile, insisted on good lighting, carefully selecting warm-toned bulbs that would make the stone walls glow with comfort rather than coldness. There were playful disagreements along the way. Huyen preferred decorative cushions with soft floral patterns, while Day leaned toward neutral tones and practicality. They teased each other gently, laughing in the middle of the store as if the world outside did not exist. In the end, they found balance, just as they always had. A house, they realized, should reflect both of them, not one dominating the other, but two personalities blending into harmony. Back at the stone house, the real magic began. Day assembled furniture piece by piece, tightening screws and adjusting corners until everything felt secure. Huyen wiped down surfaces, arranged flowers in a small vase, and carefully placed framed photos of their engagement on the walls. With every item carried through the doorway, the house felt less like an empty structure and more like a sanctuary shaped by love. The echo in the rooms softened. The coldness of bare stone gradually gave way to warmth. It wasn't luxury that filled the space, it was intention. It was the way Huyen stood back to admire the curtains swaying gently in the breeze, or the way Day adjusted a chair slightly so it would face her seat at the table. In these quiet, ordinary acts, they were not merely decorating a house, they were laying the foundation of their married life. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, the empty rooms held something far more valuable than furniture. They held effort, compromise, affection, and shared hope. And as they stood side by side, looking at the home they had slowly brought to life, both Huyen and Day understood that the true beauty of their house was not in the objects inside it, but in the love that guided every choice. The first evening they spent in the completed stone house felt different from all the days before it. The rooms were no longer hollow or echoing. They carried warmth now, subtle, gentle, alive. As twilight settled outside, a soft golden light from the newly installed lamps spread across the stone walls, turning their once cool gray surface into something tender and inviting. Huyen stood in the kitchen, tying her apron with a quiet smile, while Day lingered nearby, watching her as if committing the moment to memory. It was not an elaborate meal she prepared that night, just steamed rice, a simple vegetable stir-fry, and a bowl of soup seasoned the way he liked it. Yet every movement she made felt meaningful. This was the first meal cooked in their home, the first time the scent of food rose and settled into the stone walls, the first time their kitchen truly felt alive. Day insisted on helping, washing vegetables and setting the table, though he kept stealing glances at her as she worked. "It already feels like home," he murmured, and Huyen's heart swelled at the quiet certainty in his voice. They sat across from each other at the wooden table they had chosen together just days before. Outside, the evening breeze brushed gently against the windows, making the cream curtains sway softly. There were no grand decorations, no guests, no celebration beyond the two of them. Yet, in that simplicity, the moment felt sacred. They lifted their glasses of water in a small, shy toast, not to wealth or success, but to patience, loyalty, and the promise to walk side by side no matter what lay ahead. Conversation flowed easily between them. They spoke about practical things, future savings, work schedules, small improvements they still wanted to make to the house, but their words were layered with something deeper. Beneath each plan was an unspoken vow. I will stay. I will try. I will not give up on us. The house seemed to listen quietly, holding their voices within its sturdy walls. As night deepened, they moved to the sofa near the window. The village outside had grown quiet, with only the distant sound of crickets filling the air. Huyen rested her head on Day's shoulder, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breath. He wrapped an arm around her instinctively, protective yet gentle. The stone house, once just a dream sketched on paper, now surrounded them as a living witness to their journey. They talked about the future, not in grand, unrealistic fantasies, but in warm, grounded hopes. Perhaps one day there would be children running across the stone floor. Perhaps there would be arguments about small things, followed by apologies spoken in this very room. Perhaps there would be days of exhaustion when work felt overwhelming and doubts tried to creep in. But as long as they returned to this house, to this table, to each other, they believed they would find their balance again. Before going to bed, Huyen walked slowly through each room, almost as if blessing it with her presence. She touched the back of a chair, adjusted a picture frame, smoothed the curtain with tender care. Day watched her quietly, understanding that she was not simply checking the house, she was embracing the life they were beginning. When they finally lay down on their new bed, the world outside seemed far away. The stone walls stood firm around them, shielding them from uncertainty. In the dim light, Day reached for her hand. "No matter what happens," he said softly, "we face it together." Huyen squeezed his fingers in response, her voice steady with conviction. Together. That night, in their simple stone house, their marriage truly began, not with noise or spectacle, but with closeness, trust, and the quiet strength of two hearts choosing each other again and again.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Nội dung câu chuyện hôm nay của chúng ta thì đã kể về việc Huyền và Đệ đã cùng nhau lên danh sách những đồ dùng cần thiết cho căn nhà mới và cùng nhau đi chợ quê sắm đồ cho căn nhà mới để chuẩn bị đám cưới sắp diễn ra. Huyền và Đệ đã chọn rất là nhiều những món đồ xinh xắn và rất là phù hợp với đôi vợ chồng sắp cưới. Cả hai đi mua sắm trong một trạng thái rất là vui vẻ và háo hức. Cuối buổi mua sắm thì hai người đã vận chuyển hết đồ đạc về căn nhà mới để chuẩn bị việc sắp xếp đồ đạc và chuẩn bị cho đám cưới. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện Huyền Đệ sẽ còn được kể ở các câu chuyện tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Live Single RV nhé. Và cũng đừng quên bấm vào giỏ hàng được đính kèm ở trên video để mua các sản phẩm của Huyền và Đệ để ủng hộ họ nhé. Mọi đóng góp của các bạn sẽ giúp cho Huyền Đệ có thêm kinh phí để sản xuất các nội dung hay hơn nữa để phục vụ khán giả. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Bye bye.